start with the obvious. You given any thought to how you're going to feel walking into Rupp and playing against your former boss?
I have not. Um, I'm more concerned with how do I get these guys ready for the physicality of Kentucky, where people are looking at them and saying they're down. They're not down from what I watched. And I listened to the press conference of Cal talk about the open shots that they miss. Easily, they missed 6, 7, 8 wide open shots. A lot of them in transition. So for me, my main concern is to prepare these guys as best as we can to make sure they're prepared for a war, a physicality to the game that probably be the most physical team that we play, with Oscar playing the game trying to get 20 rebounds. That's the way he plays, constantly fighting for every rebound on every possession on both ends of the court. Never really being outside the lane, always in the lane, fighting for position offensively and defensively. So that's my number one priority.
Kenny, the last time we spoke to you, you said how you and the players wanted to kind of use Christmas break to mentally reset and refocus while you have extended time away. Do you feel like you guys were able to properly utilize that time away and are in a bit better mental state right now?
Well, my goal was to give them 2 or 3 days off and for them to reflect on what they could do and give us 5% more, 10% more of what they're doing, for them to figure out what that is, and then come back and talk to us about what they see. And then also coming off of those days off, how do we prepare for a game that's in a lot of people's minds and in our minds the most important game of the year against our biggest rivalry? And what does a rivalry really mean? Getting them to understand the emotional ties to both programs and what it means to this state, that we represent Louisville in the right way, with our energy, with our effort, with our fight, with our discipline, with our focus, in our physicality, to play a team that's talent-wise one of the top teams in the country, that it's going to finish this season and people will see one of the best teams in the country. So we have to go out and prepare and mentally know what we're facing.
Kenny, you've walked out of the other tunnel a whole bunch of times and sat on the other bench. One, do you know where the visitors' locker room is? And two, what's it going to be like coming out into that place again?
Haven't really thought about it. More thinking about the players, but obviously it'll be emotional. Had a lot of great memories there, but I'm at home, and I said it before, I say it again. I just want to win the game by one, and I'll run out the arena and get out of there. So that's more the way I process this.
Did you have any role in recruiting any of the current players?
Obviously, yes. Spent a lot of time with Oscar, spent time with Jacob Toppin. So I know pretty much most of the guys, Chris Livingston. So I keep up with them and see how they're playing and all of that, wish them well, except for Saturday.
You mentioned Oscar. Obviously, he's tough for anybody to stop. How do you slow somebody on both ends that's as talented as he is?
Well, one, you got to understand how he's doing what he's doing. He's relentless. More than people know, you're looking at a guy that's 6'7", 6'8", but his energy and his effort to fight for every single rebound is relentless. Very rarely do you see a player that's fighting for low post position offensively, but also fighting for offensive rebounds, but also screening his defender out so that the guard can drive and get layups. He's a force. And in order to deal with that force, you have to match it with that same energy, if not surpass it, in that same physicality. So Sidney, Brandon, Roosevelt, JJ, they got their hands full. And we watched a lot of film of exactly what he's doing. I think out of 4 games that we watched, I don't know if he caught the ball outside the lane once. Think about what I just said. 4 games, and the ball was always caught somewhere near the jump circle, the circle right under the basket, the charge circle. So that's a lot. That's a lot. And it goes to show how hard he plays, how physical he is, how he's imposing his will on the game, and much respect to him. He's, without a doubt, if one of the best bigs in the country, but without a doubt, the best rebounder in this country.
Besides him, what else do you have to contend with?
The pressure defensively, I think they do a good job of getting after you. They will run and jump. They'll press you. They'll get after the ball. Also, I think transition, they're really good. Throwing ahead to shooters with Reeves and Casey Wallace, but also the transition is also geared toward Oscar, because no matter where he is, if he's the last player down, he's running under the basket, and it's 4-round 1. So you got to deal with him there too. The rebounding, elite rebounding team that at times are sending 4 players to the offensive glass. So we've been working on all 5 rebounding. So even if the point guard doesn't go, we send a point guard in. So just so that we can, maybe send 2 to Oscar, as an example.
As much as you've tried to, I guess as much as the guys understand the importance of a rivalry, how have you been trying to balance that versus the perspective of the big picture with the whole season considering the start?
Well, the first part is the rivalry. Understanding what this means to all the people involved. The Kentucky fans, the Louisville fans, the schools, the administration, the state of Kentucky, all of that. They need to understand that. Sometimes young people overlook it and they only worry about their home. I was fortunate enough to be going to school here when they said no matter what happened in the regular season, you beat Kentucky, you made your season. That's where I'm coming from. So I understand what this is. I have a firsthand view of being a player and also being on the other side of it. So getting them to understand, one, how Cal is going to view it, how the players are going to view it. They're coming off a loss. What does that mean? I've seen all of that. So I know, and what I'm trying to get them to understand is that for them, it may be more than a game. It may be a statement, and you better be ready to match the statement that they're trying to make.
Kenny, you said you talked to the players when they went home, reflecting about what they could do better and what they think of what's happened. How much time did you spend doing that and looking at personnel and saying, okay, these are guys that I might need to play more, and then these are some guys that, maybe not as much?
Well, great question. First, I looked at a bunch of Kentucky games. Second, I looked back at a few of our games where we played well and said, okay, what did we do when we played well? And, the main thing is, what I've seen is that, one, everybody played and was productive that stepped on the floor. We took care of the basketball. Yeah, we may have had segments where we was disoriented or adversity hit and we were on our heels. But when we play well, everybody's involved. We're playing with an energy, a toughness, a fight. We're rebounding the ball. We're taking care of the ball. So I have to look at that. And then I have to look at combinations, which is the hard part. For me, it's finding who can play well with who and when they play well. And to be honest with you, there's no rhyme or reason to it. I wish I could say that I got 7 guys that I know I'm getting. I don't. Wish I could say I got 4. I don't. I don't know until the game is going on. And so what I'm constantly doing is shuffling it during the game and trying to figure out what's working at that moment.
Kenny, the idea of not knowing what you're going to get night in and night out from anybody in particular. This was a thing, I know you weren't here, but it's a thing that came up last year too, with a lot of the same players. How do you get to that point with a guy? How do you get a guy to a point where you can just know, even if it's not the very peak of what he can do, you know what it's going to be?
Great question. That's why coaching is every single day, every moment of your life. That's why coaches are up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's why we don't sleep. That's why, every single day of your life you're trying to figure out, and it consumes your every day. Trying to figure out and find a way to get a kid to understand this is what I need, this is what I want you to do, understand why. Understand why. As an example to your point, I want L to have practices where he does not shoot the ball. So he gets a feel for what it's like to facilitate a game. So that when he's in a game and he knows the defense is going to do something geared toward him, he's comfortable making plays for others. And then being in the game and being secure with who you are and where you are in the game, knowing you're a really good player, I don't have to be a scorer to have impact on the game. I can create shots. And then trusting your teammates to make sure when they do make shots, you're clapping for them and you're encouraging.
Talked about the rivalry, Kenny. Two things. When you came here, how long did it take, and how did you get to feel how important the rivalry was? And does any particular moment during your playing career against them stand out?
First part of that question, I think I got here in the summer, and we were in Crawford Gym, and it was all the freshmen. We were in there shooting around, and a gentleman who was around the program, I can't remember who he was, brought us all in a huddle and said, let me explain to you what Louisville basketball is. No matter what happens in the season, you beat Kentucky, you're making a lot of people happy. Like, what? So we can go 0-? Yes, you can go 0-. Now, I'm 17, 18 years old, and an adult is looking at me saying this, and I'm like, what in the world is he talking about? We don't want to lose a game. Didn't know what Kentucky was coming from Mississippi. And now, sort of, but knew, but didn't know, you know what I'm saying? I was recruited by him, but didn't understand the rivalry until I got here. And that was my first day on campus. Going back to the games, it's just wars. Wars as 4-year player at the university, wars as coaching against Louisville, wars as I know what we are walking into. And I'm hoping that I can get the players to understand that this is a little different. It's a little different.
When you have a game that's a little different, a lot of times you'll hear things like, oh, they came out too tight or they were anxious and started slow. Is there anything that you can do? Obviously, you've got the experience as an assistant, as a player, to kind of thwart that possibility creeping in?
I would hope so, without going into game plans. I think there are things that the mindset has to be. The first thing, just saying it, is be the aggressor. If you're trying to feel your way through it, they're going to hit first. If they hit first, that means you're on your heels. They're going to smell it. They're going to feel it if you're on your heels. And that's in any sport and any life. The person that hits first is putting the other person on their heels. So should be our goal.
Last 4 games, Sydney's averaged over 12 points, I think 9 rebounds, shooting close to 70%. Do you feel like he's turned a corner? How important is that for this team's improvement to have a consistent post presence like him? And did he come back still trending the right way in terms of being in shape?
I'm very happy with where Sid is headed. I like more. I like for his energy. I like for him to feel it. not for me to see it or you to see it or the fans to see it. I want him to digest what he's done to get to this point, being on the diet, seeing his body change, seeing his energy go up, eating right, coach calling me in the middle of the night, don't cheat on me, don't cheat on me, please don't cheat on me. I want him to not cheat on himself. That makes sense? So to answer your question, time will tell. I'm looking at this as another month will tell the story of if he really fully grasped just the importance of how you feel is connected to how you eat, how you live. Not just, I can eat anything and go play basketball. That's not what the elite do. The elite knows that I have to eat a certain way, I have to think a certain way, I have to live a certain way in order for all these things to be in the right place. So hopefully that answers your question. We're still watching, it's still a work in progress.
What about in terms of the part of if he can do that and give you a legit post presence?
If he can do that and give us a legit post presence, I'm happy. I'm happy. Again, like we talked about, I need to know who and what I can count on from each guy, and I need that to be consistent.
Kenny, you mentioned a bit how Cal views the rivalry, and I guess you could argue that nobody knows him better than you in terms of how he game plans, how he gets ready for games. It's a bit of an obvious question, but how much do you pull from that knowledge and experience to try and have an advantage going up against him head-to-head for the first time?
Well, one, I don't know if it is an advantage in knowing. The advantage is in, can the kids understand that there's something different about this game? Can they digest something's different about this game? Something's different about this rivalry. Something's different about the focus you have to play this team. Something different about the intensity, the energy, not just the energy of the rivalry, just playing the game, but now you're going into their den. You're going into Rupp Arena. You better understand that there will be 25,000, whatever, and they're going to be on you, and we have to fight. It's more important that they get it, and I try, and I have been trying, and will continue to try to get them to understand just what they're walking into and what it takes to deal with it.
Kenny, I appreciate these answers because I think a lot of times when you get to a game like this, the coach will say, it's just another game, right? We treat them all the same. And you're clearly saying this one is a little different. What makes you comfortable just saying, I think a lot of coaches don't like to say that the game is not like every game?
Well, first of all, I'm trying to be authentic as I can be, original, genuine as I can be, and as honest as I can be. I don't know why coaches, I know they want to take the pressure off the kids. I don't want to do that. I want them to know. Because this, again, I'm going to say it, we win or we learn. I want them to know the importance of this program. I want them to know what it means to wear that jersey, what it means. I lived it. So, and it's hard to explain this to people because I have a lot of people that don't know Louisville that's telling me about Louisville. I lived it. So my point to it is I need to build a culture. And please understand what I'm saying when I say I lived it. So the culture that I came from, as an example, before we played games, a group of players got together and talked. If you don't play well, you're not eating pregame meal. That's where the culture I came from. Where if you didn't play well, oh no, you ain't eating with us. you know, Pervert would go and take the plate and throw it in the trash. You ain't eating. What you like? That's the environment that I grew up in with Louisville basketball. That's the care factor that I grew up. It wasn't just about the one individual. It was about the group. The night before we played games, we were wrestling, beating each other up to get a mental, like, okay, I'll fight you, amongst each other to go out and fight the other team. It's hard for me to sit back and sugarcoat what exactly it means to wear this jersey. And again, I go back to this. I want to be as honest as I can. I want to be as authentic as I can, and I'm going to be. I'm not sugarcoating this. This is a rivalry, and it means a lot to a lot of people. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to Cal. It means a lot to the Kentucky fans. It means a lot to the Louisville fans. It means something to the universities. It means something to this state. It's not just go dribble and shoot a basketball and whatever happens, happens. That's not what this is. That may be somewhere else. It's not in the state of Kentucky. So that's why. That's why.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thank you.
Thanks.